Every single day, ICE, they basically drop them here.
They want to see a famous person engaged in some alleged sexual conduct.
How's the crop looking right now?
Yeah, man.
Yeah?
Great.
Outside the White House, President Donald Trump began his day defending some of the most controversial remarks of his presidency, that there were, quote, very fine people on both sides of the white nationalist rallies in Charlottesville that led to the murder of Heather Heyer.
I was talking about people that went because they felt very strongly about the monument to Robert E. Lee, a great general. Whether you like it or not, he was one of the great generals.
Trump followed up with his first remarks on the measles outbreak in the U.S.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shot.
That's a departure from his previous position. He's repeatedly and falsely linked vaccinations to autism. The 72-year-old president then attempted to differentiate himself from 76-year-old presidential candidate Joe Biden.
I'm so young. I can't believe it. I'm the youngest person. I am a young, vibrant man.
3 hours later, at the NRA's annual convention,
We will never allow foreign bureaucrats to trample on your Second Amendment freedom. And that is why my administration will never ratify the UN Arms Trade Treaty. I hope you're happy.
Trump announced he's revoking America's signature to a treaty that aims to stop illegal international weapons sales, putting the U.S. in the illustrious company of Russia, Syria, and North Korea.
I'm impressed. I didn't think too many of you would really know what it is.
Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan has begun the process of approving waivers for several hundred military cooks, lawyers, and drivers to begin assisting the Department of Homeland Security in its immigration operations. DHS needs the extra hands because it's been overwhelmed by the logistics of dealing with the thousands of Central American migrants turning themselves in every day at the southern border. Short on space to house so many people, the department has now reverted to so-called catch and release, where immigrants are turned loose while they await a court date that's sometimes years away. How they find shelter in the meantime is up to them, and the few good Samaritans willing to help them out.
Pasa por acá, mijo. Allá se pueden sentar. ¿De dónde vienen? Guatemala, Honduras y El Salvador. Bienvenidos. Gracias a Dios ya llegaron a la iglesia. El proceso es el siguiente. Cuando usted entra, nosotros vamos a estar hablando con sus seres queridos.
¿Necesitan atención médica? ¿Necesitan atención médica? ¿Atención médica?
En estas 24 horas, su ser querido le va a comprar lo que viene siendo su boleto de avión o de bus.
Hablamos para avisarte que tenemos a tu familiar. Queríamos saber si le ibas a poder comprar sus boletos para que ella viajara para allá, para contigo.
Y queremos procesarlos a todos lo más pronto posible para poder mañana recibir otro grupo de 60 personas. ¿Ok?
Hoy 15 días que salí de mi casa. Mi esposo salió antes que yo. Hace 2 meses que está acá. Sí, porque como Honduras está pobre ahorita, no hay esperanza de nada.
Every single day, they come, the buses of immigration, the ICE, they basically drop them here. It's been going constantly. I see this one, she's going to Charlotte, North Carolina. The one before going to New York. So we have different places, Philadelphia, they're all over the United States. If we don't do this, they'll be wandering on the streets.
Brenda del Carmen, ¿tú? ¿Qué edad tienes tú?
23.
¿Y la bebé?
4 meses.
4 meses. Pasas aquí atrás de ellos, ahí hacen tu llamada telefónica.
Sí, buenos días. Para hacerles saber que su familiar Brenda del Carmen necesitamos que le consiga su boleto de avión o de autobús lo más pronto posible. ¿Ok? Puede pasar allá atrás a comer algo. Gracias a usted.
Mañana me voy para Chicago. Para allí donde él, ahí en Chicago, donde mis cuñados, cuñado, hermano, mi marido. Por la otra niña que tengo otra niña acá. Se vino con el papá. Ella tiene 5 años. No puedo estar sin ella, pues.
Ya va a venir el autobús. Voy a llamar los nombres de las personas que van a estar saliendo en el autobús llamado Tornado. Ramírez, Chichilla, Brenda del Carmen.
Gracias pues por todo lo que hicieron por mí. Dios los va a bendecir más. Ahí, por cualquier cosa yo le hablo.
Gracias.
Sí. Bye. Me aflijo porque digo yo salir y no sé cómo será ir para allá también, pues. Y hay que traspasar de un bus a otro y todo eso.
Ok, tu lugar va a ser el 54 y 55 en la parte de aquí abajo, ¿eh? Ten cuidado al subir nada más.
Gracias.
Anda.
Buenas tardes a todos. Primera parada del día de hoy va a ser migración. Ahí se les pide no levantarse de su asiento para que migración no nos detenga tanto tiempo.
Patrulla fronteriza, esta es una inspección de migración. Si no es ciudadano estadounidense, tenga sus documentos listos, por favor.
¿Es ciudadana usted? ¿Me
Honduras.
permite ver sus documentos?
Hondureña.
¿Con quién viene? ¿Qué edad tiene su bebé?
4 meses.
También.
Gracias.
¿A dónde va?
Chicago.
A Chicago también, en la línea 5 a las 9:30 de la mañana. Pásenle para allá, por favor.
No paren, mucho frío.
¿Estuvo mucho tiempo ya en la frontera?
4 días.
¿Y usted se vino en una caravana?
No.
¿Cómo se vino?
Con coyote.
¿Ah?
Con coyote.
¿Oh, sí?
Sí. No, hombre, ni quiera Dios en caravana. Muere uno de tanto andar caminando.
La mayor parte de la gente que viaja con nosotros es gente migrante. Son personas normalmente que traen niños, que vienen pidiendo asilo, vienen a buscar una vida mejor.
Cuando ella esté grande, al estudio. Va, hija, va a estudiar, usted va. Te va a ser maestra, va.
Muchos están confundidos, muchos vienen ya con la idea de que todo va a cambiar para ellos. Vienen con una ilusión de trabajar. Yo entiendo eso porque yo también vine a este país como emigrante.
Gracias por preferir Tornados Company.
Completamente desconcertados, completamente perdidos. Vienen a un país totalmente extraño, unas costumbres, una cultura totalmente diferente a la de nuestros países.
Yo sé que me voy a sentir felices por estar al lado de ellos. Pues bien. Uy. Mi papi no está acostumbrado a chinear. Chicago, no sé cómo será, si será bonito o habrá frío, no sé todavía cómo será.
Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo, remains on alert. A national emergency has been in place since Monday, and up to 10,000 military personnel are on the streets alongside police. This isn't paranoia. Today, 3 explosions were reported in the east, and this haul of devices was discovered during a raid in the area just hours ago. More than 70 people have been arrested, and more may be at large. The president said today that around 130 people with links to ISIS are believed to be in Sri Lanka.
ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන්ම ජාත්‍යන්තර ශස්ත්‍රවාදී ව්‍යාපාරයක් අපේ දේශීය ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයින් කණ්ඩායමක් සමග මේ කර ඇති ම්ලේච්ඡ ප්‍රහාරයෙන්.
That homegrown terrorist organisation is National Tawhid Jamaat. Its founder, Zorahan Hashim, is the only man whose face can be seen in this ISIS video, and was confirmed to be one of the bombers. But the government has been playing catch-up all week. The Vice President of the Muslim Council of Sri Lanka has been warning authorities for years of the potential threat Zorahan posed.
This is basically one of the videos which we handed over to the intelligence office that is basically calling for the killing of all people who do not believe in Islam.
And what year was this?
This was 2015.
How would someone go from preaching like that on YouTube to be willing to commit an act of terror?
It puzzles us, but that, there again, if you look at the other suicide bombers, right, you can't even imagine that they had any reason to kill themselves. And they would certainly have known that they are not going to achieve anything for the Muslims of Sri Lanka by doing that.
Ahmed says intelligence officials did follow up, but he believes they couldn't find Zorahan to make any kind of arrest. Due to the ongoing threat, he led calls to cancel Friday prayers this week.
No, police. Yeah, but police has issued a circular saying that there is a threat.
What has it been like for Muslim people since the attack?
The alienization of Muslims is going to take place. So we need to first look inwards at our community to see how we can adapt to dispel the suspicion they have about us. And on the other hand, we also need to go back to them and say, look, every Muslim is not a terrorist.
But some people were willing to take the risk. Intikab Zafar came to pray as usual. How's it been over the last week?
Yeah, it's been quite disturbing. There is no peace of mind. You always have sometimes a sense of fear.
Today, the police and the military were on guard. How symbolic is praying today?
We believe a lot in prayers, and we did this in solidarity towards everyone who has got affected.
Did you feel safe today?
When you come here, you have a 50% of calmness in your mind, but also a mixed emotion of another 50% that we hope and pray that nothing crazy happens here.
A Florida court is currently weighing a very important matter. Does the public have the right to see a 77-year-old billionaire get a hand job? The 77-year-old is Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots. He's one of the alleged Johns flushed out in February's Orchids of Asia day spa bust down in Jupiter, Florida, after police installed surveillance cameras that captured him in action at the spa. Kraft's lawyers have been doing their best to keep that footage from being released to the media. And today, they were back in court arguing that the warrant to install the cameras was illegally obtained in the first place. For obvious reasons, Kraft, who has pled not guilty to soliciting a prostitute, would really like this particular piece of game tape to stay under wraps. And his lawyer's argument makes some sense if the publicly available affidavit against Kraft already lays out all the gory allegations. And it does. What do we need all the visual evidence for? Do we really need to humiliate this guy more than we already have? But this isn't about one guy. And aside, the Kraft case is pretty important. Florida is home to a wide variety of citizens. There's the man who allegedly posed as an undercover cop and then was arrested when he pulled over a real cop. The man who was arrested for allegedly threatening to destroy a neighborhood with his elite army of turtles. And then, of course, the man who was charged with battery for groping a fingerprint technician while he was being fingerprinted for disorderly conduct. We only know about these guys because the Florida Constitution and a series of statutes known as sunshine laws require that all government records, texts, photos, videos, whatever, must be available to the public easily, with only the rarest exemptions. That's what makes the Florida Man Twitter feed possible. It's also what gives Floridians more government transparency than residents of any other state. The Florida sunshine laws are currently under three separate kinds of assault. First, there's corporations who have figured out how to exploit public records as tools in litigation. In 2013, Lake Point Restoration Mining Company sued environmentalist Maggie Herchala, sister of late U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno, for harming its reputation and helping kill a lucrative contract it had with the county. The company cited emails it found after a public records request where Herchala complained to county commissioners about Lake Point's environmental record. A jury found the emails false and disparaging and ordered Herchala to pay the company $4.4 million in damages.
She doesn't have assets. They confiscated 2 kayaks. I think she bought used, I want to say in 1976, and a Toyota Corolla with 200 and some thousand miles on it. And this is what we refer to as a SLAP suit, a strategic lawsuit against public participation. We want to send a message, says Lake Point, to all you citizens out there who think you know better than we. We're just going to Bigfoot you because we've got the money and the resources and the deep pockets and you don't.
The company hasn't responded to our request for comment, but Herchala does have her car and kayaks back while she appeals. What lawsuits alone can't accomplish, the Florida legislature might. Florida House Bill 7125 would require the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to automatically seal millions of criminal records in cases where charges weren't filed, or dropped, or dismissed, or even if someone was tried and then found not guilty. The bill's supposed to lighten the workload at the department, but it'll actually make it a lot harder for Floridians to know whether the teacher their district wants to hire has ever been tried for a lascivious act, or if a neighborhood cop was ever accused of assault. Things like police misconduct and wrongful prosecution would suddenly be much tougher to expose. Then, of course, there's the rich guys like Kraft, whose lawyers argue that sunshine laws shouldn't apply to their clients. In a previous court appearance, Kraft's attorney suggested that Florida's laws are in conflict with the U.S. Constitution's Fourth Amendment rights to privacy, even though Florida's Constitution says the right to privacy, quote, shall not be construed to limit the public's right to access to public records, unquote.
It's about getting a video out that everyone will click on because they want to see a famous person engaged in some alleged sexual conduct. That's what it's about.
Guess what? Kraft won, at least for now. On Tuesday, a judge temporarily sealed the Kraft tapes, saying that Kraft's fame made the release different than if he were just the average Florida man.
Too frequently, we see a sealing of records simply because of the fame or the notoriety of the subject. I really believe that we need access to those tapes. I just think that the more information we have, the better we as a society are able to come to our own conclusions.
Yeah, but some people wonder why people use herb, but herb is a very spiritual plant, you know.
Believe it or not, until recently, doing this could get you mandatory jail time in Jamaica. That all changed in 2015, when a new ganja law decriminalized it and made it legal for medical use. And now there's a new question. Who's gonna profit off all this?
This area is part of what is considered to be orange area.
Ross Iav is on the government board that handles licensing for weed sales. And he's worried that at the rate things are going now, foreigners are gonna run the market.
When you're looking at the state of ganja in Jamaica right now, what are you seeing?
But I just see the continuation of slavery and colonialism from an economic point of view, yeah. Because most of the companies that come inside here are really non-black business, right? So my thing is for our people to own, right? To own a part of this industry.
Do you think this is something realistic that you can accomplish?
Yeah, right? But we have to be prepared to fight for it.
Waba Clayton can't legally sell any of this weed. He wants to go legit, so he applied for a license months ago. But the board hasn't approved it yet.
You want to smell this one? Oh, this one is a nice sativa called Alexi Lemon. Like, touch it. Smell it.
Yeah. There you go. How's the crop looking right now?
Yeah, man.
Yeah?
Great.
Ross has been working with farmers like Waba and trying to push the rest of the board to make the process easier. But even if Waba does get approved, it won't be cheap. It starts at $2,000 for a license to grow weed and $10,000 to transport it. That's more than the average Jamaican's annual salary.
If you get that letter from the government that says, hey, we're rejecting your application, you can't sell, what are you gonna do?
Well, I would have to stop because I'm a business person, you know. I'll have to go do something else. But what about the other person who can't? Ganja is not just a drug. It's a spiritual thing that's set here to help poorer class people. Without ganja, I don't know what this community would be. Larry OG, man. A special weed, man.
So far, the government has only granted 30 licenses. One of them went to a Canadian company called Global Canna Labs, which is run by this guy.
Yo, fat. Yeah, man, cocoa tea, one love.
Paul Levine is the president of Global Canna Labs,
Cocoa,
which runs one of the largest legal cannabis farms on the island. They've got a 6-acre farm right next to a big tourist hub, and they're still expanding.
How does a young dude from Newfoundland come down here to Jamaica and say, all right, I'm gonna start a ganja business?
It's a pretty wild story. My dad's family, a lot of his brothers, they were down in the Caribbean doing a lot of things with like fiber optics and stuff. So I always looked at, as this could be my big business that I start down here. And I love cannabis. I love consuming it.
To protect the industry from being completely owned by foreigners, Jamaican law requires Paul to share 51% of his profits with a Jamaican business partner. Paul says he's happy to play by the rules.
Well, I think for myself personally, I've sort of embedded myself into the lifestyle and culture here, and I live here. So it's not like I say I'm coming in from, a foreign country, putting money in, taking it, sucking everything out and leaving today. It's literally, I'm here to stay.
If there's anyone who can keep Jamaican weed Jamaican, it's probably Bali Vaswani.
Did we go to a dab and see a dab actually done?
We didn't see anybody do it, no.
So I think we should see a dab.
Oh, let's do it.
Bali Vaswani is a third-generation Jamaican. He comes from a family of successful bankers, and he got the first license to sell in Jamaica.
This would be a great feeling. If I didn't have work to do, this is where I would be.
Bali studied the weed industry in Denver, Colorado, and it shows. His store carries every weed product imaginable, and he's his own supplier. He grows the weed on a 17-acre farm next door. But he's not ruling out taking foreign investment.
I think it should be Jamaica owned if it's in Jamaica, but I have no objection to having good partners built into it. But I mean,
good partners in terms of foreign partners.
Yeah, foreign partners for sure. I think there's a lot of expertise out there.
Is there room for the small independent farmer who, until this point, has had difficulty getting those licenses?
They need to get organized now because the industry is moving every single day, and there's always a place for them. In my model, I fit them into my model.
So this is kind of all the little guys right now are kind of hoping that you don't sell out.
If I partner with a big firm, is that a sellout? I don't see that as a sellout. I see that as making a strong move to make sure that I can continue to grow the vision and make sure that I can buy all the weed from the small farmers.
So basically you're talking about right now your brand being the Jamaican ganja brand.
100%. Because if not, you're just another person selling weed. I'm just not another person selling weed.
For Ras, weed isn't just another economic opportunity, and it's not just a cultural product. It's both.
This is Rastafari philosophy, repatriation, and reparation. Because we figure more or less that we should be compensated for all our ancestral enslavement.
A lot of companies are going to look at that and they say, that sounds like charity. We don't do charity.
Right. What I'm saying, the majority and the vast majority of the profit that is made out of the industry, where do those profits go, But that's my question and my concern. I don't just want the crumbs. The cake is mine, I want a good slice of it.